Let's see what Charlie Kirk had to say.
All about British colonialism, a very provocative topic that will assuredly make the media lose their mind about how British colonialism actually made the world decent. Separation of powers, habeas corpus, freedom of speech, individual property rights, the respect and the dignity of the individual. Where did all those come from? The Magna Carta, the great thinkers of Edmund Burke to Shakespeare. Why is it that the world actually became more civil? Well, certain cultures are better than others, saying
this is literally the exact same guiding, this is the same guiding principle that justified British Empire back when it existed, okay? What he's saying is unironically the oldest take of all time, that a colonial superpower is actually the civilizing force. Americans did this with the native population. Americans did this with the indigenous population. They said well, we were the civilizing force against the indigenous population here who were barbarians. They were doing cannibalism. They were killing each other. And we came and killed all of them. In a way, it's the tale as old as time itself. Now, the idea is silly, especially because it's might is right politics. And that attitude is how you justify Nazi regime too. My man's hairline is all kinds of busted, by the way. Maybe someone should maybe the imperial forces should fucking colonize your hairline, fix that shit up, civilize that shit, brother. What the fuck? But there is no difference here than some fucking royal barker saying this shit way back in the day.
British colonialism was the most benign global empire ever, and it's kind of sparked this conversation after the tragic...
Bro, they did chattel slavery. What the fuck is he talking about? What do you mean the most benign? Brother, even Winston Churchill, just what Winston Churchill did in Bengal is he said benign. They did genocide. There is nothing benign about that. What the fuck?
Incredibly unfortunate death of Queen Elizabeth, who was, by all accounts, an incredibly stoic and wise woman who loved her country, was also a devout woman of faith. And something that I'm very concerned about is that her death is only going to continue the secularization of Great Britain. It seems as if as the bloodline continues.
That's really funny. At least he acknowledges the British Empire is more benign than the American Empire. No, he doesn't acknowledge that. Listen, dude, listen. I mean, this is just giving the fucking game away, okay? It's just giving the game away. You're literally, and this is exactly the same energy as so many of these motherfuckers who upset with my commentary on the matter. You're just an animal at that point. You don't know what you're doing. You're just reacting to fucking shapes on the screen. You're reacting in the most predictable way possible. You're like, oh, dude, immediately I have to defend those in power. That's what I have to do. That's my job. I have to defend white supremacy. I have to defend empire. I have to defend that plunder as best as I can, even if it's literally the empire that the founding fathers who he loves escaped from and fought back against. The civilizing force, man, these fuckers are racist as fuck. Exactly. Look, it's just he is trapped. Charlie Kirk here is trapped. He's bound. You know what I mean? Trapped in this bind. He's bound here to the idea of white supremacy and defending white supremacist attitudes and defending imperialism, right? But also, America fought back against the British Empire. And that was kind of one of the best things that the founding fathers did. So what? Was the British Empire going to be a far superior mode of governance than the American Constitution? Because that is a disgustingly anti-American take. I mean, holy shit. Can't on the one hand hail American emancipation, American freedom, American liberty. You can't fucking celebrate 4th of July, basically, while simultaneously saying that the British Empire was a civilizing force for good. Interesting to know that when having to choose between white supremacy and American patriotism, they choose white supremacy. Yeah. They're also, the other reason is because the American foundation is also centered around white supremacy. We already knew that though, but this is just another example of this.
She was the longest serving monarch in British history. She was born in one world and died in another. It's not easy to maintain your dignity while living in the public eye. Most of us could not pull it off for an afternoon. Queen Elizabeth did it for more than 70 years. To this day, Britain claims to have won both of the 20th century's world wars, but together they destroyed that nation forever. After victory came humiliation.
Oh my God. Is he saying that decolonization was awful and bad because it ruined the Britain? Oh my God. That's one of the most insane things I've ever heard. He just straight up Dog, he's just straight up saying that it was actually better. They blew a 13 colony lead, and it was so, like, when I say England blew a 13 colony lead, I'm making a joke, right? Tucker Carlson's like, no, seriously, it was so good. What the fuck, you fucking idiots. I did not predict that. That is a layer of white supremacy that I did not think that Tucker Carlson, who is an American white supremacist, so I did not think that an American white supremacist would say that.
The British Empire was not perfect, but it was far more humane than any other, ever. It's gone now, barely even remembered. Queen Elizabeth II was the last living link to a truly great Britain. Today on social media, the usual ghouls celebrated her death. Quote, "May her pain be excruciating," a Carnegie Mellon professor called Uju Anya wrote on Twitter of the Queen. "May she die in agony." Various know-nothings in the media, including a columnist at The Atlantic and a couple of employees of NBC News, seconded that thought.
Remember, these guys love talking about like some fucking random college professor that got fired over free speech, right? That's like 90% of the content for all these podcast people. And look how they treat someone who just got fired over their fucking exercising of freedom of speech. She didn't even say anything wrong. She said everything right. Tucker really confirming the ordinary Americans he signals to are just truly just white people, nothing to do with being American. Yeah. Like, what do you mean? Ordinary Americans? You think some motherfucker in West Virginia gives a shit that this old broad croaked or not? What are you, fucking crazy? No, that's just a way to uphold white supremacy. It's a beacon, a figurehead for a white supremacist empire, and you are upset that a black woman, a college professor, said some fucking true things and maybe a little bit of insensitive things in the aftermath of that. But remember, British Empire, unmatched decency. Ghoul, person who calls out correctly that the British Empire was genocidal, raping, and thieving. Sorry, her account is still up. They just deleted her tweet and they suspended her for a brief moment.
The British Empire was evil, they wrote, apparently totally unaware of what came after it. And speaking of what did come after the British Empire, how, for example, did Africa fare after the British left? Let's see. Uganda got Idi Amin.
Oh my God, he's not gonna fucking do this. Emancipation was bad for black people. That's what he's saying. I wonder if there was a precursor for that. Maybe when you fucking do the genocide and the theft, the resource extraction, and then continue to plant and install motherfuckers who are your guy, your puppet fucking leaders, then at the end, it doesn't fare really well for those people, especially when you continue the colonial subjugation. Maybe not under the same banner of imperialism. Well, not imperialism, but colonialism, but under a neo-imperialist banner.
Who was a cannibal. Rhodesia became Zimbabwe and then became the poorest country on the planet under the racist lunatic Robert Mugabe. As of tonight, South Africa is still being run into
Rhodesia
the ground
call
by an
out.
incompetent kleptocrat called Cyril Ramaphosa. So it's hard to see any of that as an improvement because it's not an improvement. Sorry, Atlantic Magazine. And now, of course, the entire continent of Africa has a new master, the Chinese government. China is the latest colonial power to dominate Africa. Its subjects will be pining for the British soon, assuming they are not already. In an ideal world, there would not be empires. No empires, only sovereign nations. But we don't have that world, and we never have had that world.
Hey, China is not Chinese colonialism, which is not even the same as like what the West has done to Africa, regardless, but we're not going to get into the weeds of it, is not good for Africa. Yes, Tucker Carlson is openly stating that Africans are barbarians, or he's implying that Africans are barbarians and that they need masters. He even used the term master very specifically. He's saying that these uncivilized hordes need a civilizing force atop them. Okay, on top of them, teaching them, educating them on the ways of how the Western world, which is supreme, he says, lives. Okay, well, it's just racist. But of course, when the Chinese do it, because in his world, he's saying China is doing the same thing. When they do it, it's not good because they're not white. That's it. You have to literally look at exactly what he's saying. He's saying that Africa needs a white master to keep it in check and civilize it, be the civilizing force. But when it has a Chinese master, which is doing the same thing in his mind, which I don't think they are, but still, it's not good. It's only good when the British Empire did it because the Chinese people are not white. That's it. That's literally it.
Here's the train station the English built in Bombay, for example. There's nothing like that in Washington, D.C. right now, much less in Kabul or Baghdad. Today, India is far more powerful than the UK, the nation that once ruled it. And yet, after 75 years of independence, has that country produced a single building as beautiful as the Bombay train station that the British colonialists built? No, sadly, it has not. Not one. So despite what they may...
Oh my God. Dude, this is literally just straight up nerdy fascist shit. This is like what all these fucking dildos on 4chan poll talk about. They're like, look at the beautiful architecture. It's like white supremacy is baked into every facet of our existence, and that implies that even white architecture is better than brown architecture. Do you understand? Millions dead. But hey, listen, Taj Mahal, who cares? Millions dead, who cares? Colonial subjects getting fucking owned endlessly. But also, very cool train station. I don't know how to describe it. Like, Tucker Carlson is spitting so fucking hard right now with respect to white supremacist agitprop that it's kind of taken me by surprise. This is a new layer. I mean, this is next level white supremacy. You're like a white supremacist history nerd.
Maybe claiming on Twitter tonight the British Empire was more than just genocide. In fact, the British did not commit genocide, except arguably against the Dutch during the Boer War. The British did give the world the Magna Carta and habeas corpus and free speech.
Dude, that's the same thing that fucking Charlie Kirk said. He's saying the same thing that Charlie Kirk said. It's exactly the same shit.
They helped end the transatlantic slave trade, as well as the ritual murder of women.
They did the transatlantic slave trade. What do you mean they helped end it? Oh my God. Yo, white people stay on top, dude. You know what I mean? Hey, I know that white people did the transatlantic slave trade, but also they ended it. Think about that. That's crazy. Are we going into the conservatives want a monarchy phase? Conservatives have always wanted a monarchy because the monarchy represents white supremacy. Hello. This is why I was so fucking adamant about saying smoking on the Queen pack yesterday. I know a lot of people didn't understand it because they don't know anything about the Queen and they don't know anything about British Empire and they don't know anything about fucking, they just see like a lovely old lady who's got a fuckload of great PR around her that 80% of the fucking country supports, like in England. And she's dying and you're like, oh, making jokes about her death. How dare you? How stupid. Maybe those people, if they come back to the fucking chat now that they're like angrier, now that they're less angry about it, will recognize that they were defending this because this is the white supremacist fucking approach to the monarchy. Of course he's going to defend it.
The British Empire spread Protestant Christianity to the entire world. It published some of the greatest literature ever written and produced the finest manufactured goods ever made anywhere at any time, including now. It was an impressive place run by impressive people. We will see many empires going forward, but we will never see one so benign. And because it's true, the people who would like to run the world in a far harsher way would like to make certain that you don't know it. And so they destroy the evidence that ever existed. Here they are tearing down a statue of a British philanthropist in the UK 2 years ago.
A British philanthropist? Dude, I can't do it, bro. That's a slaver, dog. That's a literal slave trader. What the fuck? That is a slave trader, man. That's fucking nuts. I mean, it's so obvious what he's doing. I want to fucking die when I see this shit. Like, this is the most popular broadcast on the fucking planet, dude. I watch a lot of brain-rotting conservative commentary, but Tucker Carlson is a special demon, okay? I like that he denies every single genocide the Brits did except the one against white people. Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious what he is doing. It is very obvious how he is tailoring his rhetoric. I mean, he just said a famous slave trader was a philanthropist. Why do you think he didn't say they took down a statue of a slave trader? Because if he had said that, even most Americans who are not as, aligned with fascism as Tucker Carlson would be like, okay, well, that's not like the worst thing. You know what I mean? They wouldn't because Americans still think that they don't have a racist bone in their body, even if they are upholding white supremacy without realizing it. Anyway, let's hear what Ben Shapiro had to say about the Queen.
Historic figure in the West passes away. It seems like it's a chance for a lot of people to dance on that person's grave.
I mean, dude, it's the Queen, dog. Why do you care?
Not particularly because they hate that person, but because they don't like the West very much. That is the only...
Oh, it's because of anti-Western hate. So funny that like neoliberals who thought that they were, so much more woke than anyone else have unironically resorted in so many different instances the same exact fucking commentary as Ben Shapiro.
The reason I can cite for why there are so many people on blue-checked Twitter, so many big thinkers out there who are using Queen Elizabeth II's death as an opportunity to talk about the evils of the British Empire, to talk about the evils of England, to talk about the evils of Western civilization. And the reality is that when a historic figure like Elizabeth II passes away, it reminds us all that there are some pretty stellar things about Western civilization. It reminds us that
Again, that's why they're defending it. It's a defense of all the good things. Colonization was good. That's what they keep saying. It's so much more than just like some fucking random old broad dying. This is about defending white supremacy, folks. Make no mistake.
the link in the chain that we represent in history, are we going to pass on important eternal values to our children, or are we going to let those things fade away? Are we going to let those things be ripped apart by forces that don't like the things that make the West unique? The thing that made Elizabeth II a unique figure in world history is not only her tenure. I mean, she presided over the British Empire for 70 years in symbolic fashion, right? Because that was her job. She didn't actually have political power. She was a person who was expected to be a symbol of British unity.
Yes, she did. She did have political power. That's not true. She did have political power. You also said British Empire without skipping a beat. What's wrong with you? Have you no decency, man? What the fuck?
The fact that she presided over the dissolution of the British Empire, the fact that she presided over all of these radical changes that happened in British society, but always held fast to certain principles, both religious and secular, her death is going to leave a lasting imprint on Britain, because now we've moved into a new era in the West in which you are not expected to perform your duty, in which you are not expected to represent, say, Judeo-Christian values to your nation. Instead, we are just an agglomeration of various folks who have been sort of thrust together by the vicissitudes of history. Queen Elizabeth II represented a rebuttal to that. That's what her life was about. Her life was about assuming the crown at the grand old age of 25, and she stepped up, and her life was really about duty. In 1947, when she was 21, she made a public radio statement dedicating herself to the realm. This is in her birthday address.
Dude, what the fuck? Why are they talking like this is a serious job? I'm losing my fucking mind. Why are they talking like this is service? Like they were doing the honorable thing. Bro, you literally sound like a peasant. My lord, me queen, she stepped up to the mantle to do the honorable thing, to take over the realm and protect us commoners from the outside dastardly forces. What is happening? Like, I don't understand. Am I crazy? I need some feedback from the chat here. I need to understand. Is there someone in the chat that understands where the fuck this is coming from? Like, so many conservative Americans are just popping off being like, "Me queen, she was great. She led the way. She paved it. She created it. So she did such honorable work."
This is in the immediate aftermath of World War II, obviously. It also happened to be in the quasi-immediate aftermath of the complete abdication of the crown by the older brother of her father, right? Her father was the younger son of King George V. His older brother, the Queen's uncle, was actually supposed to be the king, but you recall your British history. In 1936, Edward abdicated to marry a divorcee who happened to be kind of a Nazi sympathizer named Wallace Simpson.
bit of a Nazi sympathizer. Like, he's such a royalist that he's like jumping over the point. Oh my God, you are such a cuck, dude. You're so funny. What an absolute cuck, dude. A bit of a Nazi sympathizer. Just a bit.
So she was only 21 years old when she made this statement. This was after, by the way, during World War II, she actually drove ambulances on behalf of the British military. There's a pretty funny story much later in her life. Apparently, a Saudi king visited Great Britain, and she arrived in, he got in a car to be driven around, and she was behind the wheel, and she was making a statement that women can drive, because in Saudi Arabia, women were not and still are not allowed.
Wait, hold up. You're not gonna fucking shit on another theocratic monarchy on a video while you're defending the other monarchy, right? What? That's so crazy. I mean, the through line is pretty apparent. On the one hand, this is just like Tucker Carlson saying it's really Africa needed colonizers to be civilized, but now they have the bad colonizers, the Chinese. It's the exact same energy. I mean, they're not even trying that hard. They're just like, okay.
For those who can't see, that there's that crown. That crown weighs just an enormous amount being placed on her head. According to the UK Sun, the Queen spent her first 10 years in charge overhauling the stuffy, unapproachable image of the royals that Brits were used to, transforming them into a more modern and relatable family. She also had to deal with the fact that her sister, Margaret, was a rather difficult person. She televised her annual Christmas broadcast for the first time in 1957. That is an annual tradition that is now watched by millions.
That's so cool. You know, the crown that's so heavy from all the kindly given, magnanimously and kindly given crown jewels. They just gave it to him. They were like, hey, we love that. Please have these diamonds. We love that. Please, we donated it to you.
The simple but heartfelt.
If you fast forward all the way to 1991, Elizabeth was really the glue that held the royal family together, because obviously her kids were very, very difficult. Prince Charles, who is now King Charles III, he obviously had an extraordinarily fraught relationship with Princess Diana and with...
Bro, he is like a stan. He's saying Prince Charles had a shitty relationship with Princess Diana. He's such a nerd, dude. He loves this shit.
With the new queen consort, Camilla. He had been in love with Camilla. Camilla was now married to a different man. He ended up marrying Princess Diana when he was 31. And Diana, I believe, was 19 years old. And then they had just a very difficult relationship. Diana was apparently cheating on him. He was cheating on her. It was a complete mess.
You're making fun of him, but if you watch American Kardashians, how is it any better, really? Wait, what? But I don't do that either. What the fuck are you talking about? Why did you just like compare me doing an imagined thing to what Ben's doing in front of your eyes? What? Also, nobody's like, the Kardashians should fucking have royal powers. Like, Kim Kardashian can't fucking veto bills. and we make fun of them all the time. Like, and as shitty as they are, they didn't go to like South Yemen and go, hey, you should stay colonized actually. Or oversaw, once again, the torture of like Kenyans and shit. Put down communist revolutions all around the world and then whitewash that shit. I don't even know if did the Kardashians actually defend a pedophile? Did they spend $10 million of the American government's taxpayer funded? The Kardashians never, to my knowledge at least, took $10 million of taxpayer funds and like defend a pedophile. Any other person that does the shit that the queen does, you'd be like, that's insane. Come on, stop. Why are you defending this person? But because she's the queen, you're like, well, no, she's supposed to do that. I do declare. This is what is supposed to happen.
And the chief among the many treasures that we have inherited from our predecessors.
Okay, so that right there, by the way, we should just keep that in mind, what she says right there, because that is the reason why so many people are deeply upset about the reaction to to Queen Elizabeth II's death. There are a bunch of people on the left who hate Queen Elizabeth because of that. Because of the idea that there's an Anglo-American tradition of parliamentary rule and democracy, and these things are bad.
Famously, Anglo-American tradition of parliamentary democracy, which the left hates. Yeah. So many parts of that sentiment, I don't even know where to begin. It's insane. When did the parliamentary democracy become the Anglo-American tradition? What is the Anglo-American tradition? The only Anglo-American tradition is like white supremacy, dog. What the fuck do you mean? We didn't even inherit the fucking NHS. We didn't follow through on a lot of the shit that they did that was like at least decent. You know what I mean? We don't even call football. We call it soccer. And also, you're referencing the Queen while talking about parliamentary democracy. Where? What is your brain on? What are you doing?
1992, that was the big year, right? So the year after this address to Congress, that is when the marriage between Diana and Prince Charles started to break up. That is the same time that there's a biography on Diana that talked about how Diana had sort of been abandoned by the royal family. Now, the truth is that Diana was, again, not a super easy person. She came into the royal family under kind of dim circumstances, given the fact that Charles had originally dated her older sister. She had come in, she was considered the people's princess, but then she also, was not a particularly stable figure. In any case, when...
I kind of like this. This is making him more human. It's the worst possible position you could take on the monarchy, obviously, which is expected. But I do kind of love how into it he is. Like, he's like an actual stan. You know his ass watched The Crown, but it's more than that. He's been a monarchy stan for a minute, it seems like. Ben Shapiro's like, I don't think the Queen actually ended up executing Diana, but it would be cool if she did, because she deserved it. She should have thought twice about all the things she had to say about the royal family and frolicking about, cheating on someone with royal lineage.
She famously in 2011 visited Ireland. The Ireland Independent today has a good piece about this. Says she will long be remembered for wowing the entire Irish nation with a simple head bow at the Garden of Remembrance in May 2011 to heroes who died fighting her country's army. That moment of symbolism was enhanced by some superbly well-chosen words later at Dublin Castle. And then, of course, she gave a speech in the middle of COVID that was, I think, really comforting to a huge number of people.
Oh my God, he is a stan. That's how you know he's a stan. Because he's even praising her speech during COVID and shit. Oh my God. Normally he'd be like, if it's someone that Ben Shapiro doesn't like and they give a COVID speech, he would literally just be like, from her ivory tower, the Queen, decided to come out and speak to us commoners by addressing via a Zoom meeting, sitting in front of a golden throne. I mean, the symbolism of this woke moralism is too ridiculous not to laugh at. You know what I mean? Like, the fuck? Like, she's literally sitting on a golden throne being like, oh, COVID is devastating. Meanwhile, she's firing everyone that works inside of the castles that she owns. But when it's someone that he likes, he's just like, oh, brilliant. She was so comforting during COVID. Oh, those times were so devastating.
Across the world, not just in Great Britain, in the middle of a time of global turmoil, here was the Queen of England talking about COVID and its impact on her country.
This is so funny, bro. What the fuck? How is the Queen's take any different than like the Imagine song that everyone in Hollywood made?
I'm speaking to you at what I know is
Like, yeah, look at this. Look, wearing all of her jewels at a time when people are suffering because they can't get back to work because they desperately want to, but they can't because of woke moralists. And the Queen is sitting in front of a gold-plated drawer, possibly stolen from some other faraway country, telling you, the commoner, that you should stay indoors and fear not, that we're all in this together. Saying we're all in this together from her chateau. Absolutely unacceptable.
increasingly challenging time, a time of disruption in the life of our country. The pride in who we are is not a part of our past. It defines our present and our future. We should take comfort.
Okay, so I mean, it was those sorts of values that she represented, right? This sort of quiet, solid belief in eternal values over the course of time. The sort of British stiff upper lip, the idea that you can take on challenge.
Oh my God. He loves her, bro. This is funny. This is kind of cute. It's a weird, in a very weird way, it's kind of cute seeing Ben like go this crazy.
Right? All those things are what she symbolized. Now, the backlash to her death materialized immediately. I mean, not people who were anti-her dying, people who were very pro-her dying, as it turns out, which is just insane. I'm sorry, that is an extraordinary response to the death of a woman who literally had a symbolic role, and that symbolic role involved things like telling people to buck up under pressure, to understand their heritage, to believe in the values of democracy. So it came in a couple forms. One was okay, well, she's a queen, who cares? Whatever. You know, we're American. We fought the crown just so we wouldn't have to care about stuff like this. Okay, I get it.
Wow, 13 minutes in, he finally says something I agree with. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's like one of the few good things that America did. America did a lot of fucked up things in its founding, but the one good thing was this. Jesus Christ, man.
Reality is that the monarchy of Britain right now is not anything remotely resembling the monarchy of Britain in the time of King George III. She had no political power. And this is something people ought to remind themselves, is that when they're yelling at Queen Elizabeth II, they're yelling at a person whose role is entirely symbolic. She had no political power in Britain.
Oh my God, if we accept Queen Elizabeth as our monarch, will these two go away? Dude, yeah, he had a voice crack. That's how much he rides for the fucking queen, dog. I mean, he shit on Princess Di.
The United States fought King George III and Parliament in order to be free of the political power of King George III. But the truth is that apparently people have a need for royalty. In the United States, we've supplanted the idea of a symbolic leader who's like Queen Elizabeth II. We've supplanted that with a celebrity culture that is filled with babbling idiots who repeat whatever lines are put in front of them and apparently take their cultural cues and political cues.
Oh my God, he's giving the game away. He's giving the game away. He's literally saying we all need like royals to lord above ourselves because we have peasant brain. And if that is like if that's a universal truth, if that's like a natural phenomena, then I would rather have them be proper. That's crazy. Also, Donald Trump was the president. Like, he was your president, Ben. You defended him for 4 fucking years. What the fuck? Dude, every libertarian... I used to say, like, a lot of libertarians are just straight up fascists who want to smoke weed. And, you know, the Donald Trump presidency kind of showed that because they all were super on board with, like, one of the key tenets of libertarian principles is that the freedom of travel, right? And not having, like, this surveillance state, police state. And they completely dropped that. They were like, Trump is so great. But now I'm beginning to realize, like, no, they unironically would love a monarch.
Television writers. And those are our royalty. Over here, our royalty is like Kim Kardashian and Jennifer Lawrence. I know.
Oh my God, Jennifer Lawrence. You know what else is awesome, though? The top of the hour ad break. But you know what else is more awesome than the top of the hour ad break? Not seeing the top of the hour ad break and actually avoiding the top of the hour ad break by subscribing for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime.